I will create the fish, Pisces, to show that just from sight, so too Israel rises from this mundane world, and neither star nor hour has absolute dominion over it. Volney, 200 years ago, the astrotheologian who was under Napoleon, he and Dupuy went down to Egypt and discovered syncretism and astrotheology. And they taught Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine taught Jefferson and all of the founding fathers. They were all deists following this. They were not church Christians. They were different Christians, but they were Christians nonetheless. They knew astrotheology because Volney, who I'm going to read, taught Thomas Paine and Jefferson. Okay? And they are the ones. Thomas Paine said, Jesus Christ is a parody of the sun going around the ecliptic of the zodiac, the 12 signs. Yeah, Thomas Paine. He's the one that liberated America's ass in the George III War of Independence. Thomas Paine. He wrote Common Sense, 500,000 copies, and 3% of the United States men rose to fight against King George and liberated this so-called Christian nation. That was Thomas Paine. Mr. Christianity is just a parody on the sun. The liberator of America. Yeah, read books. That's a tip. Tip from Santos. Read books. Read them. Good books. Not fairy. I've never read a novel in my life. Never. I've always read historic, factual books. Always. Why would you waste your time? It was then on the borders of Upper Nile, among a black race of men, that was organized the complicated system of the worship of the stars, considered in relation to the productions of the earth and the labors of agriculture. Notice it says black race of men. Yeah, Ethiopians, Egyptians, they were black. And they were so advanced, which they still are. The black people, you will find, black people, they get this. They ain't stupid. They are way more intelligent than most white folk. They get this. How do I know? Because when I talk to them, they get it. Because Volney is saying that they were rooted in this science. The complicated system of the worship of the stars considered in relation to the productions of the earth and the labors of agriculture. Thus, the Ethiopian of Thebes named stars of inundation or Aquarius, those stars under which the Nile began to overflow. The stars of the ox or bull under those which began to plough. The stars of the lion under those which the animal driven from the desert by thirst appeared on the banks of the Nile. The stars of the sheath of the harvest virgin, those of the reaping season, stars of the lamb, the stars of the two kids, those under which the precious animals were brought forth. Thus we see a discrepancy because the Jewish system said that the kids are born here, and but they're born in spring, okay? And these are the signs of spring. The stars of life. Thus, the same Ethiopians, having observed that the return of the inundation always corresponded with the rising of a beautiful star which appeared towards the source of the Nile and seemed to warm the husbandman against the coming waters. He compared this action to that of the animal who by his barking gives notice of danger and is called the star of the dog, Canis Major. The barker, Sirius. In the same manner, he named the stars of the crab. Those were where the sun, having arrived at the tropic, and by slow retrograde motion like the crab of Cancer. He named the stars of the wild goat of Capricorn. Those where the sun, having reached the highest points in its annuary tract, initiates the goat who climbs to the summit of the rocks. He named the balance of Libra. Those were the days where the days and nights, being equal, seemed to be in equilibrium. equilibrium, calibrate, library, because you read books. When it snows, you go to the library in winter a lot more than you do in summer. Check it. Liberate. Liberate. Why is this the point of liberation? Well, the Jews call it Rosh Hashanah. They celebrate Rosh Hashanah. Rosh is Aries, Ra, the head. Hoshana, Anna, is the year, annual. Rosh Hashanah means the head, where you get liberated in Libra. The sun is liberated to go down into the winter and rest. Here it has to work. Here is the point of calibrating, equilibrating, library, and liberating. Libra. This is how the heavens are made, man. I didn't make this up. I just noticed it and paid attention. And read books. It's a good hobby. It's a great hobby. Great pastime. You learn stuff. He named the stars of the balance of Libra, those where the days and nights being equal seemed in equilibrium. Like that instrument, the stars of the Scorpion, where certain periodical winds bring vapors burning like the venom of the Scorpio. Yeah, the miasma of Scorpio, the autumn, the tomb of winter. The Scorpion is the betrayer. Here, Jesus, the Son, gets a kiss. Why did Judas, the backbiter, betray Jesus with a kiss? Because a scorpion bite looks like a kiss. It's like this. You get bitten by a Scorpio and you got these beautiful, nice, plump red lips. And he's the backbiter, yeah? Well, that's Judas. He betrays the Son with a kiss. And then he sells for 30 pieces of gold. Well, Judas betrays Jesus for 30 pieces of gold. Judah betrays Joseph 1,500 years earlier with 20 pieces of silver. It's all degrees of the ecliptic, degrees of arc, yeah? Degrees, minutes, and seconds. That's what astrology deals with, and that's science. When you're dealing with 1 degree of arc, and 1 minute of arc, and 1 second of arc, that's science. And that's what astrology does. Where is your sun? Oh, my sun is in, okay, where's my sun? Let's have a look where my sun is. In the 2nd degree of Aries, 54 minutes. So my sun is right here. 1, 2, 3, right on the 3rd degree of Aries, which is a fortunate degree. Lucky me. You've got to know your science. Some degrees are unfortunate. Some people are born with a lot of health complications. Wrong degree. You should have consulted an astrologer to be born a day after. You got the wrong degree. There are many dangerous degrees along the ecliptic. There are many blessed degrees along the ecliptic. Every sign, the 18th degree is detrimental. Every sign, the 29th degree is detrimental. The sun and all planets hate the last degree of any sign. Their energy is weak, and it's also called the degree of earthquakes. And on the 22nd of October, 3 planets are going to be on that degree at 4:30 in the morning on the 22nd of October in Los Angeles. Watch out and see if there's no earthquakes on that day, because Mars will be on the 29th degree of Virgo. The sun will be on the 29th degree of Libra, just exiting Libra, and on the 23rd it goes into Scorpio. And the moon is on the 29th degree of Scorpio. If you know your science, you'll know that that is a very, very awful thing, because Mars and the sun hate Libra, and the moon hates Scorpio, because the sun falls in Libra because it exalts in Aries. Mars is in detriment in Libra because it's domiciled in Aries. The moon is in fall in Scorpio because she's exalted in Taurus. So 3 planets, bang, 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 on the 22nd of October, stock market crash time, Bolshevik revolution time. In fact, on the 25th of October this year, in 3 weeks' time, George Soros and all the Wall Street gang that created the Bolshevik revolution, and hence 160 million Christian Russians put to death, they're going to be celebrating in a couple of weeks' time, because it's a 100-year celebration of the Bolshevik revolution, all handled from Wall Street, of course. The Schiffs, the Warburgs, the Rothschilds, the Rockefeller, and the Jesuit Vatican, who destroyed Russia in 1917. So look out for it. Okay. Macrobius, 4th century Neoplatonist like me, syncretist, astrologer, vegetarian, flat earther. Are you having fun yet?
Oh yeah, I'm really high.
Yeah, it's great, Santos.
Yeah, it's nice to read books.
It's great that we have people like you that explain everything in an understanding way to everybody. It's all
Yes, brother.
Santos, I've put some comments in the chat. You can read them, Santos.
Yeah, but
Hangout. They're for you, Santos.
Either someone else, I can't get into the chat, but if someone doesn't mind reading them, perhaps. But I'll keep going. I've got 2 more books to read from. I want to read from Bonatti and Macrobius in his book. Of course, it's called the Saturnalia. Where's the name here? Saturnalia. There you go. Please look at this. Macrobius, the Saturnalia, Saturn, okay? This is when the Saturnalia happened, Christmas time, because Saturn's here. Okay, it's no brainer. To start from the ram Aries, its agreement with the sun is plain. It lies upon its left side during the 6 winter months, and on its right, starting with the vernal equinox, just as the sun makes its circuit of the hemisphere on the right, starting from the same point. The hemisphere on the left, the rest of the time. For that reason, they also represent Ammon, the god the Libyans regard as the setting sun, with ram's horns, which are the heart of that animal's power, as the rays are of the sun's. Note too that the Greeks call the ram krios, a word for the head, because the head of man is here. The cerebrum, cerebrum, cerebellum. So krios means to criticize, critique, to judge. The lamb is the judge, hence the judge, the barrister will wear a lamb's wool headdress, because Aries, krios, means to criticize, to critique, okay, to judge and balance at the equinox. The Egyptian cult practice shows that the bull Taurus has a manifold relation to the sun, because in Heliopolis they especially worship the bull called Minervus, which is consecrated to the sun, or because the Apis bull in the city of Memphis is welcomed as the likeness of the sun, or because in the town of Hermumphis, in a splendid temple of Apollo, they pay cult to a bull they call Bushis, which is consecrated to the sun and distinguished by miraculous qualities appropriate to the sun's nature, for it is said to change colour from 1 hour to the next and has a shaggy coat of bristles that grow opposite to the direction naturally found in other animals. Hence it is regarded as being like the sun, which casts its light in the direction opposite to that of the heavens. As for the twins Gemini, who are believed to take turns living and dying, what do they symbolize? if not the very same sun, which now descends to the depths of cosmos to rise back up to its summit? What else does the crab Cancer represent with its slantwise gait but the path of the sun, which never follows a straight path but is fated always to wander where the constellation's slanting sequence begins? Oh, by the way, where is... Oh, yeah, I've still got to read about the firmament. Marcus Manilius, 2,000 years ago, astrologer to Caesar Augustus. Oh, we can have some fun. The maiden Virgo. So it is precisely in the crab that the sun begins to turn from its upper course and make for the lower on a slanting path. I've already spoken about the lion above. The maiden Virgo, who carries an ear of grain in her hand, is none other than the dynamis helikae, power of the sun, that cares for the fruits of the earth, for the reason she is identified with justice. Also, who alone, so it's talking about Virgo and her justice, who alone causes those fruits to sprout and come forth for the benefit of men. The scorpion as a whole, which includes the scales of Libra, you see, because Scorpio is reaching out to the scales of Libra, you can see Libra's right next door and he's ready to grab, because Scorpio is the Satan who's sitting on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Good and evil. Hence, the two scales of Libra represent good and evil. Libra corresponds with your kidneys. One is yin, one is yang kidney. Hence, you're talking about good and evil. And so he's explaining the ecliptic in such a way, as I do. It becomes inert in winter, and once winter is past, again, has the strength to raise its telson, its nature having suffered no loss from its winter retirement. The Archer Sagittarius, lowest and last of all of the houses of the zodiac, turns from the human being into a beast in its hind quarters, as if those hind parts shoved it down from the upper regions to the lower. Yet it shoots an arrow which shows that life on every single creature depends on the ray of the sun, even when it emerges from the lowest regions. The goat Capricornus, the goat's horn, which starts to lead, see, Capricorn means the goat's horn. And over in Cancer, you have a unicorn, the other symbol of Cancer. So you've got unicorn at the Tropic of Cancer, and you've got Capricorn. And they are the cornucopia of wealth, because Capricorn brings wealth. It's the 10th house. It's material accomplishment. It's the house of the career and the distinctions and honor and glory, achievement. And while grazing, it always seeks the heights of overhanging crags instead of the low-lying pastures. Doesn't the water carrier Aquarius display the sun's very essence? For how does rain come to fall upon the earth save through the heat of the sun, which draws up the moisture that pours back down in abundant showers? The fish Pisces, someone needs to mute. The fish Pisces occupy the last place in the zodiac sequence. They are consecrated to the sun, not by some figurative interpretation of their nature, as with the rest of the signs, but because they directly display the sun's power, which gives life, not just to creatures of the air and the land, but to those who spend their time submerged in the water, as though exiled from the sight of the sun. Okay, so what do we got here? Oh, we've got Marcus Manilius, who teaches us the same story of all the signs, starting at Aries. What does he say? Come now, prepare an attentive mind for learning the cardinal points. The tropical points, the same as the cardinal points. Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, Cabra, Abra, Brahm, the ram, abra, scarab, abra, and libra, abra, which means to open, because they are the opening points. For all, they have positions in the firmament, permanently fixed. Excuse me, let's read it again, because we're right in the mood for reading books now, aren't we? So, come now, prepare. Yeah. Come now, prepare an attentive mind for learning, not keeping your mind closed, for learning the cardinal points. For in all, permanently fixed. What is that word there, people?
Can't quite read it, Santos. Well, I can't.
Either you are streaming to low quality or we get to low quality. It blurs out.
Oh, now.
Oh, there it was. There for a second.
Yeah, hold it still for a second.
You see that little word there? What's that word?
Too pixelated.
Can't quite see it, Santos. Of course, the last subject Santos is talking about.
Okay, I've laboured the point enough. I'll continue reading. So 4 cardinal points who have their positions in the firmament permanently fixed. Okay, that's the firmament, the zodiac. It's the firmament. And look at this. I'll just read a little bit on more. I won't read the whole thing because I've done this story now, okay? It's the same story. He's going on about Aries and the bull where you plough, and the twins where twin goats are born, and the crab which has to go sideways, and the lion, the roaring sun in the middle of summer, conjunct Sirius, the dog star, hence the dog days in summer. You've got to read books. He says, one looks out from the rising of the heavens as they are born into the world, the constellations, and has a first view of the earth from a level horizon. What's the horizon? And the sea level? Sea level, horizon is level. So these guys knew 2,000 years ago, everything is level, okay? Bonatti, sounds like Bonacci. 800 years ago, contemporary of Dante, they were friends. Both of them were persecuted by Rome for teaching vegetarian, flat earth astrology and truth, because Rome does not like truth. Rome likes lies. That's why it says that Jesus is going to come and vicariously save your ass. You just go to church and don't worry about becoming a lover of truth and practicing good things. You'll be saved. And just go to university and do a PhD on, brain surgery and plug your ears with earplugs, because you will be initiated. You will get your degrees. Not. Okay, this is the last one I will read. I could read thousands and thousands more of this because I have the books. I've got Ptolemy here. I could read from Ptolemy. Okay, I'm just keeping it simple, just to give you little bits of information so then you know how to fish now, rather than me giving you fish. Now you know how to fish. You can go fishing now. There is another reason why the stars are denominated by such names, namely when the sun enters Aries, heat is increased, for the reason that the sun begins to be elongated, lent, from the equinoctial line and approaches toward the zenith of the northern regions. And he is made strong in accordance with how the ram Aries is said to have powers with respect to the strong ones of the animals. Bonatti. When the sun enters Gemini, then Heat is increased and made stronger, more so than it was when the sun was in Aries. And this is likened to the nature of the bull, Taurus. Taurus, because the bull is an animal stronger than the ram, and the declination of the sun from the equator and his approach to the zenith of the northern regions becomes greater than when he was in Aries. So Aries, the bull is greater in size and greater on the ecliptic in terms of higher declination closer to Cancer than the lamb. Hence, the springtime is warmer in Taurus than it is in the fire sign of Aries. Then the sun enters Gemini, and this sign is called the twins because the heat is doubled and duplicated beyond what it had been at first. And this is the last point of its elongation from the equator of the day and of his approach to the highest point over our heads. Then the sun begins to return toward the equator of the day, and then it is said that he enters the crab, Cancer, because the crab is a backwards moving animal, whence, just as the crab is said to sometimes go forward, sometimes forwards, and after that to return backwards, so when the sun is elongated from the equinoctial line to its last elongation, he is returned from the last elongation toward the equinoctial line. Then he is said to go backwards, like when the sun goes out of Cancer, he enters Leo. And it is said that he is in the lion, Leo, because heat is increased and becomes stronger and sharper and harder on account of the depurified air, and he does not then take part in any moisture. Whence the lion is a hard or inflexible animal, strong, very rough. This sign was denominated from that animal. Then heat is relaxed, nor does the increase of things happen, nor a generation which is ordained, apart from the generation of certain seeds. And this sign is called virgin, Virgo, because a virgin is humble and a sterile animal. Wherefore all things tend toward decrease, sterility, and all things are in equality. Then the sun enters the Scorpion. The cold is increased above the heat, and now cold comes to be now hot, and the air is made distemperate, and rains come to be, and vicious illnesses are generated. Remember the miasma of Scorpio? Vicious illnesses in autumn, the flu, the cold, etc. And strong hoarfrosts come upon things, and snows, and ice emitted from the air, like arrows wounded, ensouled, and invigorating things. Then the cold is increased above heat, and the hot is practically put to rest, and the air comes down to a distemperate and melancholic coldness. And then many snows come to be, and the ultimate cold, and ice, and the like. Whence, since the goat, Capricorn, is a cold and dry animal, and melancholic, this sign was denominated from that animal. And the sun, then, in its final declination from the equator toward the south. Then the sun begins to turn back from the equator, and then the cold begins to be diminished somewhat, and sometimes rains take place instead of snows, and the air is made more moist, whence that sign is denominated Aquarius, the water bearer, from such a disposition of the air then thriving. Then the sun enters Pisces, and that sign is denominated from the fish, which is a watery animal, because then rains abound more so in the other season of the year, unless perhaps by accident. And if there were snows or hoarfrosts of ice, they are converted more quickly into water than in other winter climes. Okay, look, I think that's rounded out enough the subject of theology explained. This is how you explain theology. This is the good and acceptable year of the Lord. The Lord is the sun. The sun rules the heavens under the dome. The dome is the Dominus, the Father, and the Son is the Son, and the Holy Spirit is the magnetic rotating field which is generated under the dome firmament. Okay? Dome is the Father, the Son is the Son, S-U-N-S-O-N, and the Holy Spirit is the magnetic force which creates. Okay? The Spirit of God was moving above the waters. The Spirit of God is magnetism, the rotating magnetic torus field. All right, guys, I think that's about rounded everything off.